Thanks for joining us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Another day of celebrating breath on this beautiful blue planet. A lot of craziness happening across the world, melting the mind, magnetic fields changing. We're going to cover tonight the 2026 winter forecast, Northern Hemisphere. Polar vortex going to be ripping and pounding, chillier than usual. And also the Economist magazine cover 2026. You know, the Economist magazine at the end of every year, they put that cover out. And Ransom and I are going to review a few covers. I got today's 2026 cover. I think it's something, a hidden message within that goes right along with the crop losses, the food price rises, this polar vortex 2026, and why food is being tightly controlled and more control and more hoops and hurdles to go through to get to access that food. And I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. It even costs more to do such. And Ransom, thanks for joining me tonight. Can we go the full screen? I just want to quickly jump into this of what I see ahead here. Now, this is the Economist magazine, and I just want to jump in. And what you're looking at there is just a hodgepodge of craziness. It's literally the scatter wave pattern in a form that is being thrown at you by the ones who make the messages to throw that at you. That's what they're going to throw at you in 2026. It's not a cohesive thing anymore. Have you noticed that? Like if you go to the previous covers, it's like one cohesive kind of plan, or there might be 4 or 5 of them, but it's not 1,000, not 1,000, which means something's coming apart at the seams, which literally this picture shows you right here. Coming apart at the seams. So then what I'm looking at is, Ransom, I was wondering if you could cue up that image, because I am looking right here on Null School, and I'm looking down at the bottom of the Earth. And you can see that I'm looking straight over the North Pole. If you look at the map with me, this is the wind map off. You can get it at earth.nullschool.net. Goes through different kind of particulates. Now, if you're looking at this, that Economist magazine cover is this. We're looking at the top of our planet. A lot of people are trying to interpret individual items in there, but take the wider look. That's our planet, and that black line around the center there, that's the equator, the same exact top view that we have here, going straight down into the North Pole.
I don't think we're seeing the other one that you're showing us.
Oh, no.
I'm just seeing the time.
Share this tab instead.
There it is.
I gotta be smarter than the computer. Oh, what is happening on Thursday night? Shoot.
There she blows.
There she blows. So that Economist magazine cover is the same North Pole view down over the entire Northern Hemisphere. So think about this. I'm going to share the other tab with you, and I'll take a look. You visualize it as such, and now take a look at this one. So the 250 is where the polar vortex is. On the right, you'll see Vikings. Damn, that's Greenland. They're marking the areas on the map. And if you look, well, if you're going to head west from Greenland, you're going to find the Trumpster in America. Well, they're America. Now swing around, and then obviously you're seeing Russia and China. So that's the Northern Hemisphere. You're looking at America, South America, Asia, and swinging around through Europe, which looks like they got red balloons and fists and all kind of crazy. That's Europe over there with that big container ship. That's Europe. The Viking ship is Greenland, and then we come around. So we get a visual gauge of where the Earth is, looking at top. So you see the 250, that is the polar vortex that's totally displaced. Totally displaced. And when I say that, I mean this thing here is getting knocked so far out of kilter with whatever's happening with our magnetic field that we are going to go into a super freeze event. And this is the thing. In my opinion, you can agree, disagree, please do your own research. That in advance, you see how far down that light blue is? That's swinging way down to Florida there. This is going to be a displacement event of event after event after event. And you can see them stacking up. There's going to be 5 more of these, like super freeze, like we had last week, 20, 30 degree Fahrenheit below the normal average temperatures. Well, we have 5 more of those to go this winter based on their modeling. That was before winter and it was that cold. Imagine in the middle of winter and it's 30 degrees below normal Fahrenheit temperatures of what you're used to in your area in the middle of winter. Like Southeast U.S. is going to be just, incredibly frozen. But I'm going to stop sharing and Ransom those. That's how I'm going to even just start this. episode tonight, there needs to be some awareness of the food, the way that if you can't grow your crops, it's too cold, it's too moist, it's too dry. We don't have food. We don't have a society. We don't have a civilization. So, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining tonight. A ransom, take it over. I see a glorious snowpack in the background.
Yeah, that's Sierra Blanca, named when the Spanish invaded there, and then for decades it didn't have any. I'd say through the '90s, it didn't really turn white anymore. And I remember I think I was in 11th or 12th grade when they were telling us, "Yep, you're never going to see snow on the mountain again." Al Gore says that's a thing of the past, and well, it covers every couple weekends now. And winter's coming; they're already opening up the ski resort up there. So if you see that really white side there, and then there's a little strip of forest in it, that is the Apache Ski Resort, the Inn of the Mountain Gods. So, they're rolling on
Oh,
like
deep
normal.
statement. Deep statement. Go back into that. What do you mean end of the Apache gods over there? What?
Well, they call that it's the inn of the mountain gods because
Oh, the
these
inn. Gotcha. Gotcha.
yeah, it's a big old casino where you can go waste all your disposable income, and go skiing and bet on the horse races there in Ruidoso. Ruidoso is right next to that, so that whole area had a massive forest fire, and then they had burn scar flooding that flooded out the whole town. But thank goodness you can gamble there because they'll retain all that money pretty quickly.
Do they do they use it on the roads? Oh yeah.
Yes,
Betting on the ponies, go for show every time. You can usually just drink free all day if you just get those three horses lined up to show. But that's just gambling, man. That's drinking for the day.
right, and they also
And
have
eating too, shall I say,
wild horses running around up
wild
there.
horses dragging me away. Oh, wait.
No, they told us that, but if you just live down here in the valley, all you have to do is every time we have a little bit of moisture come through. Matter of fact, I think it's lightly snowing up there right now. We just had some torrential rains out of nowhere just dump on the desert here. But in the higher elevations, that's all sleet and snow. So they're happy about it. The ski packs are going to be open this year, despite them telling you global warming. It's getting harder and harder for them. And that's the whole reason that they knew that was going to happen and they changed over to climate change. Is so no matter what happens, no matter what kind of dramatic event happens, it's because of you. Something that you did in your life is, accumulatively affected it, and that's the whole thing that they want to kill all the cattle because they're farts. I think what they know is we are going to go into, for all intents and purposes, an ice age for humans, and I'm not talking about the old kind of ice age. That you would think of, but what I mean
Oh,
is just
that's
cold enough and snowy enough to hamper the effects of having a high tech economy with food on delivery and all of that stuff. That all stops when you have, severe weather. And I would rather have severe hot weather than severe cold weather because cold weather
yeah.
is
And we,
death.
oh, anytime, any day of the week, warm is better than cold. And here's the thing that just, to dovetail on that with some graphic images. Now, what you see here was the 4-lane highway cut from the airport through protected area, no less, a reserve of pristine rainforest. They cut a multiple mile highway through this. I forget how many miles it was exactly. 8 miles. Yeah. Through this protected area. So everybody's calling them out on it. And they're like, oh, wait, sorry. This was already a planned highway from a long time ago. Had nothing to do with COP 30. It was already planned a long time ago, but we just decided to finish it right now and get everybody out of the way. And like, if they didn't come, arrest them. And that's why they're the protests there. Oh, and by the way, throw the native peoples off the land too, because they're in the way of the protest. They want stuff from these people. And that was the whole thing, is the people who actually live here, the original inhabitants, were like, you're on our land. We want to come in and see what's going on.
Right.
We're the ones you're trying to protect, bro. We should be allowed to come to the meetings. And you know what? They were throwing off army, like all kind of police to stop the actual people who live there in the forest.
Like the elites care about
to come in and actually join the conferences and talk about really what's going on. What do they need? That's the craziest thing. Is like, we're supposed to hear protect the rainforest. I got to save the damn toucans or whatever.
Well, the best way to do that is to
Eight
cut down
miles.
100,000 acres of forest there, or 10,000 or whatever it takes to squeeze in a road there. And then when you get it all built, have it get burned down. It is funny because the same thing is happening. What you're getting to see that's being highlighted in Brazil is happening in Mexico through the Yucatan, where they're putting up new high speed rails and highways and stuff. And they're constantly coming across archaeological sites, or they just pave right over it. They say they're trying to, save the forest for the people that live there. But the people that live there want to get on the high speed rail and go to the city and buy products. So there's a conundrum going along with the
Let me
people.
hear it echoing.
Well, supposedly the same people that want it saved and are being supposedly saved by these programs are the same people that want in on the 21st century of technology. They want to go and they want to buy things and they want to travel. So the government's going to do what the government's going to do, and they had already planned that. So it's really easy to switch ideas with them. So, like in the Yucatan, there's a lot of people against what they're doing. They're clear cutting forests so they could set up these highways and rail system. But at the same time, those people want to be modernized in the first world along with everybody else. They want to go shopping and they want to buy food on demand from different places. So you can't have both. There has to be some kind of middle ground where you save the environment at the same time as living in it and building it. And what's really weird is why they don't look back to the civilizations that lived there before, which would be the Maya. And we're now knowing that the whole Mayan age is probably 5,000 years or more older than they thought it was. So that whole area is covered in ancient civilizations that for one reason or another disappeared into the jungle. The jungle grew over it. And it is not great farmland. A lot of people think, oh, well, all that stuff's growing there. It must be great farmland. Well, it's not, because there's no soil. There's no soil in the rainforest. Every drop of water and every beam of light gets used by the native plants. So there is no soil to grow food on unless you're growing the type of food that comes with the jungle. So if they find a way to have an equilibrium where they're utilizing the forest without destroying the forest, which would be the best way forward. But unfortunately, a bunch of little wars are breaking out between governments and locals and cartels and different stuff. So the cartels
Is it
want the
about the
money.
food, though? My
It
question
is.
is
Yes. It's
not about the oil fields or about the diamond fields. It's about the field, literally the fields.
yeah.
And who
So
controls the food production and the food delivery out? Whoever controls the food this point forward wins. That, have you noticed the pattern that's emerging across the planet from giant militaries taking over one of the largest grow zones in the world, Ukraine,
right.
to what you're talking about in Mexico, up in somebody's 5-acre papaya farm.
Well,
Same, but different. It just macro, micro, whatever.
Well, there's a lot of upset feelings because the government wants the money from those avocado fields, but so does the cartel. And so now we're seeing stuff. I've been seeing news out of Mexico about landmines being placed inside of the farms. So when
What?
people go out to, do their daily work, boom. Now, this is only going to increase with our skirmish that's going on. I'm sure you saw what was happening in Mexico, where they repeated the January 6th style op right there in Mexico City, where you had people going in and spray painting, vandalizing, and they were saying that they were patriots. The government now can, target them as being terrorist like. But those are the cartel people. Those are, and they're not, they wasn't Gen Z. I actually watched a whole live stream from somebody down there, and they were going around before things got, you know, crazy or whatever, and they were talking to all kinds of people. A lot of people didn't even know that that was a protest. There was one guy that was so drunk that he said, I live out here since my wife threw me out, and this party's great. This is pretty big. I've never seen so many people come out for the fiesta. It wasn't a fiesta, but he was drunk and he didn't know. He just saw a lot of
Wait, what
people.
city is that? What place is that?
Mexico City.
Mexico City.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was a lot of crazy things going in DFA down there, right downtown, huh?
yeah. Well, the
It's
people
crazy.
want the government to take the U.S.'s help and get rid of the cartels and not be a narco state. The government sees it differently. They don't want outside help, and they're saying they can handle it, even though if you think about the presidential race, 35 out of 40 of them were assassinated before the last few five got to run for office and decide who was president. So it's a really upside down world down there. And now whenever you're going to start seeing fighting going on between government and cartels, and the new cartel maps have come out, and the map is different than it used to be. So some shrank and some grew a lot. But the problem is they don't just have their hands in drugs. They have their hand in corn. They have their hand in avocados and papayas and anything else you can grow. They want their hand in it, and they want that money. And so something's going to have to happen, whether or
Wait
not
now.
we're
What
involved
if
or
you
not. I don't know.
what if you overlaid those maps, like the gang control areas and then the agricultural output areas of Mexico, and see how those overlap on some sort of who's going to control what resource coming out of food product, food resource coming out of there, and the gold as well, or any types of minerals that are there. But overlap that map, and we're rewinding the clock back to fiefdoms and kingdoms. All right,
Yeah.
it's starting to fragment like that. So the whole world's going like this, and you ask yourself, why at this moment would it be going like that? Then we see this Economist magazine. What is it? It's a fragmented world where exactly what's happening in Mexico. Everything is going back to kingdoms and fiefdoms. It's breaking apart. China shall do the same. Could America? That's the question. To fragment because people are so disgruntled, or there's power play and controls this area more.
Yeah, so let's look at it. What people think is a unified map of Mexico. It's not a unified area at all.
Can you pop it on so we can see it? Let me turn that. If you have the map ready.
Yes, I do.
Oh,
I
there we
just
go. Let me turn that on. There you go.
lost myself here somewhere.
No, you're
there,
still there. I see you.
there I
You
am.
lay it
All
on.
right. Yeah. So
What
this,
is? Oh, look at the that bright
this
yellow up there.
is actually an older map. So this yellow area would have been the Juarez cartel, and that shrank all the way down to right around El Paso. And you got this Sinaloa cartel, and it's shrank also. So what's big now is this what they call the Jalisco New Generation cartel, and they show it as this small blue. But now it takes up half the Yucatan and almost all of Mexico. So they're the major force. And those are the guys you see on TV with armored trucks and brand new 203s launchers on the bottom of their M4 platforms with their Kevlar vests, helmets, well funded narco military state. So it's actually a little bit, I would say they're looking a little more well funded than the Mexican federales are at this point. So we know that all of these cartels are intertwined. And this is actually an old map. Let me find the newer, updated one. But this is all changed because of infighting between the cartels. And so things are about to change a lot. Really, there's only two players left other than little small city state cartels that are still existing. You really only have the Sinaloa, the Zeta, and the New Generation there. And the New Generation has basically taken over the whole of Mexico. So they're the fighting force there now. So what you see is blue on this map has now taken over all the red, purple, the pink, the white areas, most of the Baja. So it's looking like we're going to have a lively combat zone going on there. And the US government wants to back the Mexican government, but the Mexican government is too tied up into those cartels to accept the help, or you'll see a bunch more executions and assassinations going on.
Yeah, let me kick on my map here. There, we got the share button. So it looking a little big there. Oh, that's why it's 30. Okay, so what do you see on the screen? This is the agricultural production areas for, get it, alcohol. So think about that. Okay, if you're going to go, what is generally consumed more during unusual and, I don't know, tumultuous times, do you think?
Corn.
Yeah, and alcohol.
Yeah, and a lot of these.
So think about controlling the alcohol regions, and especially in Mexico, if you can control those regions where they were making tequila and the agave, don't think about just like a pear tree, a pear plantation, or an apple plantation, or an apple farm, or whatever. Think about something that's also growing straight out of the earth there. It doesn't matter. It can be turned, that agricultural product can be turned into something very, very, very high value. And as if things were to go the way it seems they might with some push from the global elite, then a lot of regions are going to get cut off and they're going to go more regional. So if half the United States were to get cut off the Mississippi River, would they be able to, all of East America wouldn't have access to alcohol from Mexico, right? But the West would. So it's just going to fragment, and a new market's going to find itself to fill in that vacuum of all that alcohol that would have been supplied from the East Coast is no longer coming. So it's going to be from somewhere. And then I'm sure the prices will rise for 3 or 4 times. But look at that. Tell me about this agricultural map. Like 2 is just what you were talking about with that Juarez cartel there. But what about, going down into this map, into the mountainous areas around like the mezcal production areas, the Durango, that sort of thing, like 5, 6, 7, 10 down there. Can you explain it? Oaxaca's 14, way down south there by Guatemala. Ransom, your microphone's off. Yeah, see, there it is in Chicago. Yeah, that's exactly the same way. So they're going to be able to control the avocados, and they're also going to be able to control the mezcal tequila production as well.
Yeah, that's basically what I said when I still had myself turned off. I'm sorry, but yeah, this is a more updated map, and you can see all of that blue right there is where the Sinaloa and the CJ cartels are fighting, and that's all of that agricultural area that you
Yeah, I
showed
wish
on
I could
this
match
map
that up.
right
Yeah, there it is.
See,
Yeah, so overlapped. I wish we could pull those side by side.
well, we can blink it there. Oops, wrong button.
Yeah, it's not as efficient as looking at them directly next to each other.
Yeah, so I could look at. I'm pretty familiar with it. So all of this green, yellow, and
Yeah,
brown.
all the green down at the bottom, right? That's all that. Which cartel?
That would be the New Generation cartel there. They have just taken that over away from the Sinaloa. So it was Sinaloa, and they're showing this little area of dark blue. That's their base of operations for their rival cartel. So the whole thing is being shaken up, and the question is which governments are backing which side, or which part of the government is backing which side. And it seems, just from my own opinion, looking at the news feeds and watching the one particular cartel start winning over the other one. And if you remember, the Sinaloa had a little help from the CIA, especially when we were creating the NAFTA idea and all of that. And you had Vicente Fox and George Bush in office. They closed down the border. Everything went real violent. Before that, you could just go into Mexico, like senior citizens routinely would go to Juarez, buy their prescriptions, buy clothing. It was a very peaceful place. It was a very easy for Americans to go shop. But as soon as they started clamping down the border, basically, the Sinaloa cartel just, exceeded in power, and they pretty much took the whole of Mexico. Now that's reversing, and you got this new cartel, like I said, that has M4 platforms, 203 launchers, armored vehicles, Kevlar helmets and vests. They are well funded. Somebody, and if you really do a little digging, you can track it right back to this thing called Fast and Furious.
Wait a second. Are you rewinding me all the way back? I wouldn't say to the Reagan years, but shortly thereafter. That war on drugs is exactly the same copy paste garbage we're seeing again right here, right now. Exact same players, exact same countries, just the clown faces have changed.
Yeah.
I cannot believe they're trying to rerun the same script again 40 years later. But that's exactly what they're doing. Exactly.
Well, think about this.
The gun running and thing down in Central America too, Fast and Furious. Like, come on, really? Nobody went to jail. Everybody protected everybody. It was the same thing that had run through this deep state and everything for, I think red-handed caught selling that were confiscated from somewhere else. Like, come on.
Well, if you play your cards right, and I think that was called the Iran-Contra thing there. But if you play
one, that's the same exact thing we're seeing being replayed here. But like, who are we substituting the countries for now?
Well, instead of the Middle East, Central American countries,
switch over this time?
This time it would be the Zetas, and it would be Mexico.
Okay. Which one?
It would be Mexico, because during the Obama administration, we ran Fast and Furious, where we gave the cartels, At the same time as our government was saying you don't need those AR-15s, they were handing them over the military grade style M4s, which is a better weapon. They were handing those over to the Sinaloa and the New Generation Cartel so that they could fight over each other. And during Bush, it was Sinaloa was favored, but then this new cartel got favored. And you can see where the money was well spent on the equipment. That the Mexican federales are not even equipped that good. They don't have, night vision scopes and M4s and 203 launchers and armored vehicles to just roll up on a town and cause havoc. But like I said, there's
Yeah,
been
hard to
some
battle against that. Who can guarantee us the food production? That's who gets the support. It's kind of going that direction, right? So
right.
see who is getting the support. Agricultural areas, whoever controls that's going to completely do it. And if I could, Ransom, I'm going to jump over to this new this trans pipeline here. Oh no, did I just say trans? I cannot believe it. I did say trans. Starting you off here with what is that? Get that Drudge Report off of me here. Let me see. I got to make sure I got the right. I need to. Excuse me, just a second. My brain is share this tab instead. The Trans-Caspian pipeline is exactly the same thing we're talking about in Eurasia. Like everything's fracturing over there as well, into factions within countries as well. So what we're getting is the news here. So it's Venezuela, it's Mexico breaking off. America, they want a civil war. They got a California here, New York, everything's breaking up. China, they're disgruntled at the best. Everywhere across the planet is looking like it's sort of breaking. Fracturizing is the best thing. But here we are. Here's the Trans-Caspian pipeline, and I would like you to look. I want you to. I just want to get your opinion here on these gentlemen. If I can zoom my site out. Oh, maybe not. I can't make it bigger. Oh, there we go. All right, so this is the competition here. In other words, like when I look at them, I think they're old school politicians. They can get things done. They're not part of any wokeism BS. These guys are crisscrossing entire continents between their nations with pipelines, rail lines, ports, and highways. And this bit right here that they're onto is, hold on, let me get back to it. This new pipeline that America is desperately trying to stop, but then they have to accept it now. So it goes from Caspian State, this is in Baku, which is right next to Republic of Georgia. Because remember when I was doing this grand solar minimum research on some of the survival spots that I thought that had the best odds of riding through this massive climate shift would be Republic of Georgia and Sumba Island in Indonesia. Now, just if you go east of Georgia, Republic of Georgia, you come out into the Caspian Sea. See, that's the interesting thing about this microclimate. It's got the Black Sea on one side. It's got the Caspian Sea on the other. Mount Ararat, the supposed where the Ark came down after the floods and everything released from there, 8,000 years of continuous wine production. So something's very stable there because wine vines are finicky. Grapevines, if you ever grow them, they're finicky. Now you have to have a stable climate to be able to grow that. So between there, now move over. Now that you move over to the right or to the east, you get Baku, and it's a huge oil field. It's very, 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 very sour crude, dude. They got Himalaya size, like mountains of sulfur stacking up after they do their refining process. Just the first step to get the sulfur out of it because it's like thick. I wouldn't say tarry, but definitely got to go through the first filtration, for a better term, to get all that sulfur out of it before you can even like send it anywhere to be used as crude. It's like gets a discount because it's like that. Anyway, they have a huge amount of natural gas, which is the regular point. So it punches in and it goes all the way to China. It goes through Azerbaijan, also the Caucasus, pops over through Astana, south of Astana.
I don't know if you can talk about Trans-Caspian extensions on YouTube.
Yeah, we can. Trans-Caspian corridors too. Give me the corridor,
Oh,
dude.
damn. There's a whole pipeline.
Getting sick. The stakes. Well, the stakes are big. Oh, yeah. That's why hopefully you can see this one here.
Yeah.
So they've actually done something called reversing the flow. So before, Russia was the big one that popped everything out. And the direction that the pipelines had to flow, because there was no pipelines in place to allow a different flow before. right? So they had to go a single direction to move the gas. Now, with all this new building of an incredible amount of new pipelines, they're crisscrossing. They're able to send gas back in different directions they never could before because there's a full another set of pipelines next to it. So what they had set up originally as single directional flows on that, they've crisscrossed everything into, you can send it any direction you want to right now. You're no longer bound by the rules of it was only one and you had to go this way. So everywhere can efficiently send gas to every other place. The problem is now they're in a sort, I wouldn't say a bidding war, but they're going, well, I can give it to you like 1 cent cheaper, so now they're trying to get around the Russian sanctions, and that's fine because they're not Russian sanctioned, but there's becoming here's the thing with the BRICS. They're all trying to become rich, but they all have all the resources and they're all trying to sell the same resources at the same time in order to get more money to be part of this new Belt and Road Initiative, whatever BRICS alliance that's coming out, the non-Western order of things coming up for the reestablishment of what will be over there this time, not here. The wealth is moving from here over to there. What will be what you'll remember as it was here back when it was very rock solid. That's being set up right now over there. So all the money is gravitating. The norms and values that we respected in business are moving over there too. And they're not going to buckle or lean on that. There's none of that DEI BS over there. They can't, think about dropping back to the 1960s. Oh, it's like this, it's that, it's that. That's how they are there right now. They're not playing if you rewind the clock 50 years and you think about how people behaved, how society was structured, law and order, law, maybe, however you think it might have gone with it, but people obey that. Things were stable. It ran at a certain rate. That was, you could never get away with anything we're doing today, even 20 years ago. You imagine dropping some of these freaks that are in cities now 50 years ago. Oh man, the citizens would have been kicking them down the street, not just the police. That was totally unacceptable behavior. That's all over there now, where they're not playing with this, bring it in, protest this. Oh, it's like, we're here to do business. We're going to grow this economy to be the world's largest, compete with the US dollar, and knock it off, knock Europe off. And we're going to take all the resources and we're going to trade in gold and we're going to settle between ourselves the difference. If I take 100,000 tons of iron ore and you give me like 20,000 tons of nickel and we keep that as an even trade, and then there's like a few $1,000s left over, we'll trade in gold to make the even difference flat, zero. And there'll be 20 different locations on the planet that I could pull the gold within 24 hours and get it in my hand. There's a whole repository of gold depositories are setting up around from like Hong Kong to Dubai, Shanghai, Astana. There's a network. Oh, UAE also, United Arab Emirates. Dubai has a place. Switzerland has one. There's a whole bunch of gold repositories that these new BRICS aligned nations are sharing. So you don't have to carry anything across the borders. You can go there and you have a deposit certificate on the blockchain, no less. You can rock up to another location and pick up that physical gold. That's the whole thing about this trading, is gas and lumber and iron ore. That's great. But being able to trade the gold amongst these nations to have a non-debased currency across the entire network of where the rail lines are going, where the ports are going, where these natural gas and oil pipelines are going, they're all interconnecting as well with a gold settlement mechanism. See, the Bank for International Settlements with Basel III, they claim, well, they even say U.S. currency is a tier 1 asset, which I'm like, that's insane. But okay, play with me. I guess we're back in kindergarten, but the gold is now a tier 1 asset as well. They're setting up an entirely new system based on what was the previous system. Think about 3,000 years ago, 4,000, 2,000, 1,000 years ago, we all used gold and silver. Right? They're bringing us back to the same system. Somehow there's this disruption where they were able to insert fiat here for a few hundred years, but it was never able to do that before because everybody required that. Here's a trade. Here you go. I want to share this tab instead. I think I forgot to share the other one too while I rambled, but never mind. It's a rambling night. Everybody only used to use gold and silver before. There was no paper. We tried that in 1820, 1850s, 1840s in America when we all had our own banks. Everybody issued their own currencies, but it was all backed by silver, this tradable notes, right? So we were always on a bimetallic system where silver and gold were used. You only, unless you had some like rubies to trade or something, it was always gold and silver, some copper. But now we've come off into paper, and now we're going back to gold and silver and copper and resources again. So we went through that loop here. So we're moving to an entirely new system where the old things just aren't going to work anymore. Like if you noticed in the West, we haven't repaired our infrastructure. Like if they knew there was a cascading event coming, you wouldn't repair your infrastructure. You'd move it. So here is, and you can see the middle corridor, the direction from China. And then if you go all the way really far east or very far to the right of the map there, Nanjing, that's a huge, gigantic port. I mean, one of the biggest in China. And I don't know this one, Lianyungan. And then, Yiwu. There's that Yiwu down there on the right. That's a center place where it's a wholesale marketing area. Yiwu. Anything you want to ever get in a wholesale produced in China, you would go down to Yiwu down there. And then Shenzhen, that's where all the high-tech stuff is produced, Pearl River Delta, that area, and then come out into Hong Kong. Chongqing, that's out more west toward and Chengdu, those are getting way out west there. Chengdu's in Sichuan province. As soon as you go a little bit west of Chengdu, you come into the Tibetan Autonomous Zone, which is tightly controlled China over the Buddhists that are in those mountain areas. And then as you head west, you come into Nepal and over to Bhutan. But here's the thing. When you come a little bit south, this is the old southern route here. I want to try to, the reason I'm saying, if you come from Chengdu and you go a little bit south, and I hope you can see my mouse here. If you come a little bit south, you bump in Myanmar. And once you come out of this region up here called Sagaing, then once you get down, it gets lowlands again. So you just have to go from Chengdu through, I wouldn't say super steep mountains, but you got to cross one range and get over to northern Myanmar. And once you come down, that's called the Southern Silk Road. Like that was a well-established thing. Like when we were fighting World War II and we were coming through Myanmar to try to punch through China, they were using the same routes. Like when they called flying the hump, that was flying from here the same right over to Chengdu. They were trying to go from North Burma over to Chengdu, or anywhere in Burma actually, or Burma, Myanmar. That was the hump, flying over that one range you'd have to traverse. So you drive a truck up it, you come all the way down, and then boom, you're in Myanmar and you're down on, or your camels or your horses, whatever, through history. And then, that's the traditional Silk Road up to Urumqi and what's that, Jinghe. Then you come out, and where do you suddenly come into Kazakhstan after Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan? You get down in here, Astana. This is the new capital. This is your new New York. This is going to be the new Wall Street, for a better term. This is the center of the center right here. If you are understanding BRICS or anything China aligned, this Astana is the center of the new universe. And you got to look at the sacred geometry and just the crazy design. You thought Washington, D.C. was designed in a design. You have seen nothing until you look at Astana. Really, truly, it is the most geometrically sacred geometry engineered city, I think, on the planet. From the inception to make it as such for the combining of all nations to come in and trade here. It's the center of the gold hub of trading in Shanghai too. Now follow that through Kazakhstan. Follow those, and where is it going? Right there. That's the Caspian Sea. That first water body. You come to the west there, and that's exactly what heavy sour crude resides there. They got to do filtration process. But then you're into Azerbaijan, and where are you going through? Tbilisi, right there. Some of you might say Tbilisi, but it's really pronounced Tbilisi. They don't say the T. So when you go to Tbilisi, that is Republic of Georgia. And if you go just south of that, that's Mount Ararat, where the damn Ark was. So you see, and then if you go even further south, we come into Göbekli Tepe. If you're looking in that area of the world for stuff to look at, Göbekli Tepe is right there. The site of the Ark coming down on Mount Ararat's there. Some of the oldest, most incredible in Turkey. Are you kidding me? How old is Turkey? Just itself. And then you go down to Iran, whoa, this is ages like incredible old. You're down in Mesopotamia there again.
That's the World War III map.
What's that?
There's your World War III battles right there. All of that through Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkey, all of that stuff. Right where those rail lines go in there, and I was just looking at, because I'm ADHD there. That rail line curves around and goes right through where all the pyramids are at in China too.
Yeah, I've been to those pyramids. If you could, I seem to have lost the screen there. Where did that thing go to that I was sharing?
It's still there. No,
I'm going to look up some Chinese pyramids while you're doing that.
you deleted it.
And I'll
No, here,
tell you where I went to. I went to a fair few of them out there because I was hanging out in Chengdu. I was working over there after I'd studied over in Xiamen and went out west there. China pyramids, they're out like Xi'an
yep,
and Yuanyang, where the
on
original
screen. I have them all mapped out there.
capital was. Oh, there we go. I got a whole bunch here for you. If you,
Yeah,
let me pop back on and share a screen again.
go for it. Yeah, all those blue dots there are pyramids I found on the whole line there by the river.
Okay. Yep. You see where it's going with that. So I will share the actual images with you. I'll see if I can mention a few areas where I was here. Yeah. So outside Xi'an, you get this is the first ones here. They don't even, I forget the name of them, but they're right outside Xi'an. Like a lot of people go here. So they're able to climb up on the top. There was kind of a green fence going around there. So don't climb. You got to realize, damn, this is back in what, like 2003 or something like that. Further back. Okay. So this is what the pyramid right here, that's this one. They call it a tomb, but it's really the pyramid. So anywhere you see like these tombs where there's a name tomb behind it, at least out west, going further out this direction, and they stretch for, like you saw that map with Ransom there, those dots. It's not like one or two. They stretch in the line for like 200 miles.
Yeah.
Emperor Huang, like Huang Di, like the first emperor. That's why they call it Huang Di, which means emperor, because Emperor Huang, being the first, was buried right there at the head of that. Like the head of the snake of that energy line that rifts through the crust that they all identified there, that there's something way special here. Yeah. And this is what they all pretty much look like. They're flat topped like this. You're not going to get the exact what you see in Egypt. These are earthen pyramids. They're what they call tombs. And this is a perfect one. But the ones I visited never had this like gigantic staircase on it. Perhaps they had put that at later, but here you go. This is what, aerial views. This is what our pilots saw. So speaking of the hump, remember when I was talking about the hump? Like when they flew the hump, they saw an enormous amount of these pyramids this is an old, probably like World War II photo. Like, look how many small ones there are that would have definitely been deconstructed and used for building materials or actually to fill in the land somewhere. Like all the small ones are gone. Like the only ones that you would see today are like those four. And the one at the top right, and then that's what would be left. There'd be nothing else left for sure. It looks like a circuit board almost. And when you start to look at the ancients, like how they would use these energies, and that if I didn't tell you that wasn't pyramids lined up in China, you would think that was possibly a very close in on a circuit board, where we're getting down into literally close to the atomic level or something.
Yeah, and not only that,
all of them are flat like that.
Even the new Google Earth maps, most of them all show that they're either constructing on it, or they're digging up around it, or they're planting farms all around it where it blends into the environment. See, watch this one. I think this is the one you were showing with the walkway right here.
But see, they all look exactly the same. That's the thing. Like once you see, like when I first got there and I was cruising around, I was like, oh man, I wanted to climb every one. But then they all started to look the same, right? But one thing that was unique about it is everywhere they excavated, there is a museum next to them.
Right.
And like there's some amazing museums of just for that relic right there. So they would excavate it out and there would be a single museum of that one right next to it. Okay, we pulled all these thousands of objects out of this tomb and we set up a museum right next to the pyramid or right next to the tomb. And you go in there and man, back then they weren't hiding anything. It was like 2003, 4, 5.
You see how they're all hidden in the farms?
Yeah,
there?
It was all just like right there. Dude, this is super remote back then. Like you might think now, like, wow, we're right in Xi'an. Look at all these pyramids. You get to them as a tourist. Dude, you had to get a guide to take you out there. I knew some locals and they took me out there. Otherwise, I wasn't getting there. And then if you go to Yuanyang, which is the original capital outside Xi'an, that's where the oldest ones are. Yuan, Yuanyang, Yang. That's where the oldest of the pyramids are. Gao is another one, Gao. I think it's a Gao pyramid out in Shenyang. But the museums were something to behold outside of these relics as well. So I was just looking to see if I can find, let's see.
Yeah, like all of these downtown here, you'd have to literally be right next to it to see it. I think I've got about 200 on here that are like that all go down the river. Here's one of those spots that had a bunch of little ones, and you can see they're doing a bunch of bulldozing work around it. And some of the more famous ones
Well,
are up
the
here.
Nile River is very much the same with the pyramids there too.
Right.
You know, if you look along the Nile there, the pyramids, same. So it has to do something with water conductivity because in the UK it's the same.
And you see how they have, like you said, they've built kind of artwork and museums around it.
Yeah, there's always a museum. Anytime, oh, that's just the temple gate or the gate to go in through. That's not a museum. That's just literally the gate to go in there. It's
Right.
grandiose, you know.
And then there's
Respect
some
China, man. They're grandiose at the best, dude. They like you're really looking for like some like over the top opulence or like what the hell? That's impossible. That's just a gate. Like, no, dude, that's like a palace. No, it's just the gate to go through. Like that kind of mind blowing on almost everything. You want to go there because it's just so
yeah, there's so many of them.
yeah, it's really to the top, man. Like it'll blow your mind seeing just what you think
What's
is a
weird
simple
is
temple gate is just like
there's this one
and
that's
all this stuff's like 600 years old. They're knocking it together, no nails kind of thing too. Like that big one, no
right.
nails. And you're like, how did they build this thing? Technologies that shouldn't exist for, you know, again, metallurgy with the maps, or sorry, with the mirrors.
But
You
that
know,
rail
just,
line goes right around here by this river too.
yeah. I was trying to show you some of these maps here. Western, this is Hanyang, yeah, Hanyangling tomb here. And I want to show you this
There
mirror
it
if I
is.
can get it
That's the
real
one.
quick.
Hung Yan Ling right there.
Oh, is that the one? Well, here. Okay, hold on a sec.
Coincidental. It was
Yeah,
just
here you go.
coincidental. Yeah.
Let me share this screen with you then. So these are the mirrors that I talked about. Every museum, every place that has a tomb has this little tiny museum or bigger museum next to it when you go, at least it used to. And they were finding thousands and thousands and thousands of, these are mirrors that you're looking at. Mirrors. Sailor sides polished like you would polish bronze, brass for a mirror. But this is what they look like on the backside. But one thing I kept noticing again and again and again is you see those nodules that come off of that?
Yeah.
They were on like every single mirror that was there. Like every one. And they all had the, I would say these two, this one here with the square and this one with the nodules protruding, and then this one circular one was just a singular. That was pretty much those three. You'd see them again, 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 again. There might be some variants, but generally it looked like a star. Like if you look at that, that's a sun burst, like a sun ray burst. Or is it something that plugs into a circuit board to complete a circuit? Because there were so many of these. Think about them as machine or transistor parts on something much larger.
Well, they look like maps to me. I mean,
Yeah, they were all the same though. That's which is really trippy that they were all the same wherever you went, whatever museum you went to. They all had. This was the number one thing that you would see every single time was this like mirrors. And let me stop sharing. I'm going to come back off of that. I was looking. If I find anything else, I'll bring it to you.
yeah, it's really weird how that they've because I've zoomed in on a lot of them. Some of them look like they've built a building over it. You see, like this one right here is next to these two. These are actually one of the two larger ones there. And you can see nobody gets to live really around these. It's all land that's inaccessible, even with it being right downtown next to everything. Here's a really big
Well, if
one.
you keep people out of the artifacts, you know, you got to keep people away.
Yeah, and you can see here's one I just noticed I didn't mark to the left of that one. That's a smaller one. You can kind of see them. They stick out because of this different tree pattern on it. Even though they tried to hide it, it's all very visible. It's kind of and I've seen some of these.
That one was too.
Most of these are like this one says the Hanhundi Mausoleum. I'm sure I didn't say that.
Yeah,
Right.
mausoleums are the same name for a lot of things that they would put up there. For mausoleums are the names of a tomb. Which one are you looking in there? What's the Zoom one that you were just talking about? You said you didn't know how to pronounce that one.
Here
Let me see that one.
Here's a photo.
Oh, Hanhui Di Liu
Yeah,
Ying. Hanhui Di Liu Ying is a mausoleum.
Right. Now, almost all of them have something, but a lot of them actually don't. So I know that the people like over here, when you go to this
Yeah,
field,
there's so many unnamed ones that I mean, the famous ones that have a name will have that little museum next to them. Again, it's been a while. It's been over 20 years, so I don't know what they're doing with those museums, but it'd be like one or two people in there, and they were so proud of what they had with the ancient history. So when you go in there as a foreigner, you're like, can I see that one? They wanted to show you everything. It wasn't like you have to browse around and kind of sneak around. They wanted to show you everything. Like, dude, we are the best culture ever. Look how like powerful and excelling we were in technology and like 4,000 years ago. Man, we
right.
were the best of the best of the best, coming from somewhere out of nowhere with advanced mathematics and language and like engineering and stuff. And the Shanxing Dui society out there, West Chengdu, outside west of Chengdu, like there something was there before. That's all I'm going to say. And
Well,
they understand it too.
they had
That
those.
something powerful and advanced was there in advance. So they're so proud to show you that stuff too and then integrate it into their own culture.
I just think it's weird because almost all of these pyramids were in association to 6 foot tall guys with braids that had red hair. Um, 6 foot plus, really tall guys. But not only that, they had some kind of magnetic technology where they were taking magnets to try to align these with the cardinal directions. And this is before most of the, I would say, other people kind of moved in. So a lot of these are really thousands of years before the area was inhabited in more recent civilizations. Just put it that way. But
Yeah, man.
it's kind of like the Ainu in Japan, where they just they were a people out of place, so they're a lost Caucasian Caucasoid group. That's what they used to call them, and it's funny because for a long time they didn't fit right into the main of civilization, but with excavations of old Ronin and some of the original samurai, they found out that the Ainu were most of those families a long time ago. So now it's starting to be really popular, kind of to be. It's kind of like in the United States where people seem to really get happy if they're part Native American now. When maybe if you went 200 years ago, they wouldn't have wanted to be claiming that they had that. It's the same way in Japan now. They're really happy that they can track their ancestry to, before the Chinese phenotype came on the island.
Going a long way back. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this first hour here of the Civilization Cycle podcast. We're broadcasting every Thursday night, 10 p.m. to midnight. The topics we're talking about, we're trying to get you into the discussion as well. So, I mean, what are you thinking out there about what we're seeing as this connected set of like events to distract? And, as we come back into the second hour, please stay tuned. I wanted to jump back into the Economist magazine, talk about the low pressure systems and what I think it appears as is a polar displacement, or the magnetic field has completely shifted where it's knocked this cold off and around our planet for at least all of 2026, where it's going to be incredibly below what the temperatures normally are. And then that would subsequently knock off crops and the ability for us to grow the yields we used to have. But I want to come back to that. And I want to look at some of these polar vortex, how I did in the beginning of the hour, and look at that, how it's supposed to knock down and also get a better gauge for the 2026 winter coming in here right now, Northern Hemisphere. You can see the flows are shooting a little bit of heat back toward Greenland. But again, during the grand solar minimum and the Maunder minimum, that's exactly where the heat spot was, tucked within the cold, was southern Greenland. And Alaska as well would be another spot. So you start to go back 400 years ago and look at temperature reconstruction maps, and this is exactly what we're seeing again. So please join us after the break. I'm going to bring up some maps for you here. I will get the temperature reconstruction map so you can match that up. And also think about our sponsors and, the people we're talking to that have products here. Believe them. We think they're great products. I use it myself. Anyway, now think about chasing those guys over at Hemp Lucid because, with all these new laws that come in, That hand cream is dynamite, by the way. Any chapped, coming into winter, that sort of thing, any kind of chapped skin or something like that, put it on dry. You'd be surprised. Like, what? This is magic elixir, but it's going to be illegal for sale next year. So check it out here. We'll see you in 2 minutes, 2 seconds. Also, civilizationcycle.com. Jump in on the newsletter. 10 different bullet points from the show tonight for the full 2 hours. Keep that conversation rolling. You can share that with friends, family. You can start some conversations, do your own research. Civilizationcycle.com. You can also click that or grab that QR code. We'll see you after the short break. 2026 comes. This is not a toothpaste. It's a revolution for your teeth. Remineralize, strengthen teeth, all natural ingredients, essential oils, minerals, salts. Alpha Vedic Dental Solutions System. That's alphavedic.com/civilization. We're always trying to bring you the best products here that we think will enhance your life, especially if supply chains break down further or if there's some disruption in our lives here. It seems in the news more and more possible, but hey, who knows? Maybe it's a mind game. But what is not is keeping your dental health up. And not a lot of people are talking about this. We always see the storable foods. But what about dental care during these same emergency situations? Will your toothpaste eventually run out? Well, if it does, then what? So like I say, this whole micro gut biome is driven by your oral cavity first. So take a look at what they have, alphavedic.com/civilization. Every purchase you make helps keep our live radio show and podcast on air, bringing you more information just like this. alphavedic.com/civilization. That link is in the show notes below. And as always, I appreciate your valuable time and joining us in this ever and most important conversation as we move forward in our world.
A huge challenge with our modern food system is that it's devoid of critical enzymes found in raw whole foods. Destroyed by poor agricultural practices, overprocessing, and cooking, our foods simply don't deliver the enzymes and nutrients our bodies need for optimized health. This imposes a much heavier burden on our bodies to replace the enzymes missing from our foods, depleting the enzyme potential of the body, weakening immune function, metabolism, and overall health. The good news? Patent-pending Ensorb addresses this problem head-on. Ensorb uses VNI's proprietary proteasome absorption technology to rapidly deliver the metabolically activated multi-enzyme complex directly into your blood. What can Ensorb do for you? How about unsurpassed, enhanced digestion of your foods, improved gastrointestinal function, improved immune function, strengthened metabolism for improved overall energy and vitality? And it does it all with its proprietary technology that can enhance bioavailability and absorption.
Head over to vni.life/civilization or click on that link in the description box below. Takes you directly to the Ensorb page. When was the last time you could trust your gut?
Please remember to sign up for our show notes. With Civilization Cycle podcast, you can learn what to expect as society resets. Agriculture, economy, tech, and history all have mappable cycles, and these cycles affect every aspect of our lives. We can navigate the chaos and thrive together with up-to-date news and information. Also, if you like the content we have here on Civilization Cycle, think about fueling the discussions and the show by buying us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/civilization cycle. And thank you for all the support.
Still tossing and turning, the modern world can really take a toll on your body's circadian rhythms, the internal clock. Hemp Lucid's sleep gummies use natural ingredients that are carefully balanced to help you drift off to sleep naturally and enjoy rejuvenating sleep all night long, all without habit-forming sedatives or melatonin. Curious about better sleep naturally? Check out these blueberry lemon sleep mushroom CBN gummies, reishi, lemon balm, valerian root, with full spectrum hemp extract that may support a sense of calm. Ready for a better night's sleep? Click on that link in the description box below. Hemp Lucid Blueberry Lemon Sleep Gummies.
Yummy. Everybody loves sleep gummies. And we're back for the second hour. Dubai was talking a lot about, cold weather and food. And it's starting to look like, you know, we were talking a minute ago about the corn, avocados, papayas, things like that. But that's not the only things that are probably going to be, lacking or at least really expensive as we go into the winter here. Here's one from Mexico specifically that I forgot to bring up would be the sugar. A lot of sugar's being grown in, you know, everybody up here loves sugar. I mean, we're like a sugar economy. Everything's got sugar on it. So I don't know how that's going to work out when everything that has sugar or GMO corn in it, which they make the fructose from, is going to skyrocket in price. And then also, this article talking about possibly beef prices soaring 60%. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's right in line with what's coming. The broadcasting is everywhere that the food's going to get more expensive this next coming year, and it's going to require another level of hoops and hurdles to access. Like if you can't see that coming, it's buried within the messaging. If you're understanding that message, then I'm seeing the same thing. It's just going to keep going up and up. Like something about the food this year, like at the beginning of the Adapt 2030 channel, I talked about that they were going to lock the planet down, which they did during COVID, but then they let everybody out. I thought it was going to be a one-time thing or it was locked totally. In October in 2024, the way the four gas giants squared, I was very clean. That is the beginning of the cycle. I don't know what the end of the cycle is, but that marked something very significant in time because that squaring of the gas giants hadn't occurred in almost 2,000 years of that precise. So I thought it as a mark in itself. Beginning of the cycle, I'd run through and try to find the completion of it around like 2032 or something, 2033, even though it's like 2035. I could never find the end of it. So that in itself, and now we're back into this amplification. So let me share this screen with you quick. If I could even see which one it is. Ransom. I can't help. Coming back the second hour, we are making some syrup out front. So I'm just trying to bounce back between the temperature check on the syrup. Okay, so Ransom, if you allow me to pull this over to the side and like wide this out a little bit here. This is going to be the winter forecast for North America. So let me dive in here. What you're looking at, that's the jet stream, that purple blue that you're looking at, that's the jet stream. What is above there is a hot pocket tucked in there, which you also see during modern minimum reconstruction maps. So that flow that you're seeing right there was pretty much going to stay the entire winter. So as you see, that cool is moving from north to south, and that undulating wave. We're in a La Nina, so the Pacific water temperatures are cooler than normal, and they're expected to bounce somewhere near neutral next few months. So this is one of my favorite sites. If you ever want to do weather research here, check this out. Severe Weather EU. Shout out. Thank you for putting so much information out that we can like relate amongst ourselves and try to get a gauge of how the winter is going to be, because this is super important. A, heating bills, but B, electricity is getting so expensive because the AI data centers. Food's going to get bigger and more expensive, and they're broadcasting it in The Economist magazine that it seems like a super freeze event is going to take hold of the northern hemisphere this winter season. At least that's what the year ahead shows for me. So that it would be a super freeze. If that pattern continues, then cold in the United States the whole time, cold all the way through northern Africa, all the way up into Scandinavian countries, and they've already been blistered with just like ridiculously cold temperatures. So here's your La Nina. Let me shrink that down a little bit. Sea surface temperatures, Celsius degrees, not Fahrenheit. So you're looking at those greens coming down around 2+ degrees Celsius. Yeah, you're out around 3.5, almost 4 degrees Fahrenheit. Cooler water temperatures off of Western South America. That Nina index. So we're in a cool phase. It's supposed to be coming, at peak somewhere, at the end of our winter. So this is going to hold the whole winter. Whatever's happening now is hold the entire winter. So here's your forecast. Also, what they're looking for on the map, this is degrees Kelvin. And the anomalies, obviously, Yellows are warmer, blues are cooler, and purples are the coldest. What I don't like is we have supposedly the highest tech measurements ever on the planet for everything, but you peg the chart at 2 degrees. Yeah, right. Like you couldn't give us that. Okay, we've come into some of these darker, cooler areas, like in Norway up there. What's that? Finland, and then over into Western British Columbia, north of that, up in Canada. We get into that super dark color. Like, really, you can't give us like a 3-degree marker or a 5-degree mark, so we really know the true temperatures. Come on.
Is
But
there
this
any
you can
way
already
that
start to see it.
I was
And
going
what
to?
do we got here? We got the snowfall. Now this is just an average, and you can see the average here. It was 1959 to 2024. So they're crunching all the data from that period of time. And this is on the average how much snowfall each area gets. And what we're looking for here is going to be, well, West Coast, it looks like it's going to get a tremendously gigundous amount of snow, if that's such a word, along that coastal area. But notice again, Alaska is very much less snow. That's probably warmer, but that matches up with the modern minimum. Alaska and Greenland, southern tip of Greenland, right there in Alaska at the southern coast as well. Moderate minimum temperature reconstruction map shows you the exact same warming areas. So that'll match up with the snow. And here's your polar vortex collapse. Now, that flow that they're showing us has shifted dramatically to the west. So now the cold is pulling down further into America, but that flow is way out west. Remember those maps I showed you there? Now, this is the displacement. Once something gets and forms a high pressure path, it's really strong. It punches down and it knocks that cold air off as it repels everything else. It's an electric charge coming out of the atmosphere. Don't think about these as like cold air. Think about those as electrical touch points. Like that circulating vortex, that's an electrical field generated from space, from our sun, touching our planet. So the stronger these events are, which is like crazy magnetic field declines we see in the solar, everything solar that you can imagine, just completely off the hook the last 2 weeks with the X5 that smashed the planet. We saw aurora all the way down into Florida. Like the magnetic field is overcharged right now, but think about that swirling is where something comes down and displaces, then all that cold air gets knocked out of place. And it's going to go south. And it already has. They're looking for record cold temperatures in northern Africa as we speak. Now, these are a little more difficult to discern there. I'm going to skip that. Here's your cold air blobs, for a better term. So that pink, what you see in the very center there, that is a displacement that has happened. This is a sudden stratospheric warming event, is where that high pressure, where you get a lot of heat. I can't even get this thing to zoom out. There we go. And that's what you're going to be focused on, is this center point here. That is high pressure. For me, that's not high pressure as you think, oh, it's a warm front. That is an electrical connection from space that is displaced through a frequency enough charge to repel the rest of something away from it, the clouds, the systems themselves. This is an electrically charged point you're looking at here. The more strongly that gets charged, the more that displacement of cold air will continue to happen again and again and again. So bringing it back to the 2026 Economist magazine, the elite must know that we are at that rollover point where the continuous charge is going to rock onto the field. Now, it's not exactly north. Again, when you look at that Economist magazine, they're also showing there's some sort of magnetic field disruption where the new magnetic pole has moved significantly because it's not directly over that. It's moved. So if you're looking at the displacement here at over the United States and in Newfoundland, and then if you look at the really sort of grayish one as we get over to what's that, Mongolia, that system's going to continue to just spin and spin and spin. And this is just going to be record cold event after cold event moving through this winter here. So already, and this is a scary one, this looks exactly like the modern minimum temperature reconstruction. Shit, that's downright scary. I kid you not. I encourage you to look it up. That is degrees below normal, the 2-meter air temperature anomaly. But look at that, all through America, and that whole belt is between 4.8 and 6 degrees. And since they're saying meters, it's Kelvin degrees. So Kelvin's pretty much around 1 degree Fahrenheit or so. It's like 1.1. So you're looking at around 7 degrees average on the air temperature being cooler in that purple, and the darker blues around 5 degrees cooler, all through the entire United States, all through our entire grow belts. But then if you look above the Scandinavian countries up into the Arctic, you're so far off the chart that you can't even see what that, it's 6++. Like, again, with the technologies they have, couldn't they not map it out and put just like another color band in there to allow us to know if it's 7 degrees, 8 degrees, 9 degrees, 10 degrees, 40 degrees? It could be 40 degrees difference, but you won't know because it just says 6+. Or like, oh, it could be 100 degrees difference. We won't know because it says 6. Significant cold, and that significant cold is going to get displaced and knocked out of place. So look at this. I'm going to try to put it in there. Look at the dark purple that you're seeing where it says degrees K, DEGK, degrees Kelvin. That purple is significantly way, way, way off chart, and it's going to get knocked out of place. You see, each one of these things that you're seeing up there, those cold blobs, those are the things that are electrically getting knocked out, knocked over, going way, 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 way further south than normal. The entire winter is going to be like this. Again, I don't know if a new electrical connection has been established from the sun in our North Pole region that's changed the North Pole magnetically to a different spot that's now stabilizing as the new magnetic north with an electrical throughput charge to anchor that. If the elite know this, there's not going to be cold up there anymore. As we know it, it's going to continually get cold and get displaced. It's not going to stay like the Arctic locked in where it's cold, cold, cold all the time. This is a display that's going to hit. Okay, that cold's going somewhere else. It's going to be way warmer than normal. Good for the global warming people. But the cold, boom, it's going to get knocked off again and knocked off again and knocked off again. That's why this Economist magazine cover looks so strange and scary. If I could find it again here. Where is it? Oh my gosh. Share this tab instead.
There it is.
And Ransom, I'd sent you that picture. Are you able to cue that up where I'd already circled everything in black?
Oh, the one you sent me? Yeah, I can open that up.
Yeah, I sent it over on Telegram. Please join us on Telegram, by the way. Civilization Cycle Podcast Telegram channel. We put up news that we surf through the week that we're going to talk about in our stories here. So if you notice where it says 250, 250, yeah, it could be the 250th anniversary of the United States, or it could be showing you the new North Pole. The new displacement that is exactly the same as we're seeing on those maps that we're referencing that are knocking record cold off again and again and again is exactly where that 250 is. Now, are they showing you that this is a new magnetic field and a new stabilized North Pole position? Maybe we won't have the full-on flip for a few years, but, magnetic field is declining. Perhaps it's running that way. They're showing you something about the magnetic north that's there that is, it should be down where the crosses are, really, if it was going to be in the center. Like if it was going to be north, quote unquote, it would be where Trump and the crosses are. But it's not. It's way over toward Asia, which is the Kamchatka Peninsula. This was the destination for the North Pole magnetically as it was wandering between, 60 to 80 miles per year. Like that's more than 1 degree going that way toward Kamchatka Peninsula. And it still seems that they're showing you very distinctly that the North Pole is gravitating that way still. Magnetic north, not geophysical, magnetic. They're just validating it. And again, if you want to follow those, what looks like flames, perhaps those are pointer arrows, and they're showing you where the magnetic field's going. Now, if you're thinking about it like that, and that magnetic field is exactly what we just looked at in terms of those displacement patterns, something that would look like this is what you just saw on the map as that round 250 is this climatic event in motion right now. So don't think about the 250 with the birthday cake with the west pointers. Think about it as being an electrical punch through spot on the North Pole. That's going to cause record cold and record crop losses spinning around all through 2026. Thank you very much for listening.
I was really I wish you could get some of those maps that would depict what it was like in 1941.
There you go. That map right there. Can you go back to that? I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I had this up
in
here.
black for you.
And you got this black line all around here. If you look down
Yeah, the
to
black line is the edge of the periphery of the cold zone. So if you walk through me with the mind experiment, where you see that boat that is cut through, that boat, that's Greenland. They're Vikings. That's a Viking ship. So that
right,
demarks Greenland. So the edge of the cold is going to be Greenland there. And if you follow it clockwise, then we see that it spins around Trump with the crosses. Obviously, that's North America. And I see ice cubes down there melting, but I'm like, if it got really that cold down past so you got to think about that black line there all the way around the perimeter. That's equatorial band. So either glaciers are melting in the equator, or it's going to get so cold that they're going to have some kind of super freeze event that they're going to have to melt out from them they've never had before.
well, you
And
see
as you
over,
come around, yeah, further, and then if you just swing a little bit, you see Xi Jinping and Russia over there. Obviously, that's Asia and Eurasia. Like, these are points on the actual physical map that you're just looking at a different representation of the fractured, scattered map of all these, like Ransom so eloquently spoke earlier, the fracturing of Mexico. I'll say the fracturing of China, the fracturing of Europe, the fracturing of everything everywhere, the fracturing of South America within that. And there's the 250. That's the magnetic pole. So what I'm looking at is a top-down view of the planet, showing you where the extreme cold is going to extend down to. And in my opinion, what's interesting is, at like maybe the 7 o'clock position, that cold goes beyond the equator, stretching down into the southern hemisphere. Because if you're looking at it as a rounded map, so whatever's happening down at that, say, 6, 7 o'clock position, is outside the norm of everything else happening. So if you're going to be looking at it as South America or some cold event over the Pacific, that cold event shall rip down over the equator down to the southern hemisphere. And again, thanks for listening.
no, I was
That's all I gotta say, man. That's all.
when I was
Does it make
looking at,
sense though, or am I just like grasping at straws?
no, it could make sense, and they obviously put meaning in those things on purpose, or someone is trying to. But I was looking at those polar maps, that polar where it comes down and it's purple and it's blue over Europe and the Americas. Now, if you recall, this is funny because I had a discussion the other day and somebody told me, well, they can't have World War III yet. And I was like, why? And they said, well, because it's not frozen yet. You got to have it totally frozen so that you kill as many people as possible with famine and troop losses and stuff. And if you remember in World War II, that's what they were dealing with through Europe. Matter of fact, weather played a big role in it. We even went so far as to classify weather predictions of like the Pacific because they were trying to hide the fact that typhoons and other things were moving in. And I was kind of thinking about that as far as now, and you're talking about it getting really cold. That would be the perfect time. And not only that, it seems like that would be the triggering or the motivation for countries and their people to be upset, is not when everything is warm and relatively nice where you can make do and some stuff's growing, you can gather wilds and you can make it through despite it not things might sucking as far as geopolitically. The regular people can kind of make it through because it's not so cold. But when you get to where everything's completely frozen and you have troops moving around looking for what little scraps of grains and things that are stored in different places, then you put us back into the World War II kind of mindset, which was going on. You had troops moving all over the place. You remember the whole invasion from the Nazis into the Russian areas. They were freezing to death. They were dying because it was so brutally cold. So it kind of makes sense that it would be a worldwide cold weather as far as the northern hemisphere before we kind of set off on any global fight, because that would be the easiest way to push the people into that. And over here in the U.S.
Wait, can I stop you for a second there, Ransom? Can I throw my 2 cents at you? Like, if back to that picture, when Germany was advancing into Russia in the early days, like when they screamed through Poland and they were kind of marching toward Russia, getting into Ukraine, etc. They planned on stealing as they went on, they're going to invade into a town. They're going to go roust up all the chickens from all the farmers, and they're going to eat that as their sustenance versus having to carry a shit ton, as they say, of supplies with them. Part of their strategy was taking as they went, not 100%, but they would definitely rock into a town and, clear out an enormous amount. They clear out all the stores, they clear out everything, all the meats, anything cows, chickens, anything that was available to eat, they took for themselves as they marched forward. So that, but again, once they got into that cold zone and there was nothing for them to go back, it's like having a whole tank of gas and going out 3/4 of a tank and realizing you got a quarter tank of gas and get back and you can't. It was the same thing. And they got bogged down and got super cold, no food, like they, well, thanks for destroying everything on your way in, dudes. Like, you ate all the food and killed all the animals coming in. What do you expect going out? You think they're still going to be like, we're just going to raise new cows just for you guys to come back in and get again? Like, once you destroy a food producing area, it takes a while for it to come back online. It's not like, German army runs through. They're not seen again. There's a few dudes hanging in the back. Okay, let's just start raising cattle again. You stole our last 50 cattle and paid us nothing. Fool me once, you know what I mean? Nobody, those animal husbandry areas and those grain growing and the crop growing areas, they just stopped. They just stopped. The same thing with Ukraine. That used to be a major grain exporter. 30 million tons a year used to come out of Ukraine. Right now it's down to about 5 million. So all those African nations that relied on that second-class grain to go down to Africa, like it wasn't the best grain that could be sold compared to on the American market and the American pricing through like Chicago or something. I digress.
No, that thing was wild. I mean, if you really think about it, the whole what was it, Operation Barbarossa, and and that kind of made the Battle of the Bulge pretty bloody there. I mean, they had snow, ice, malfunctioning of equipment. You had frostbite exposure. You had limited ground and air mobility, so they couldn't even move around once they got there. And you got to wonder, why did they go in ill prepared for a harsh Russian winter? I mean, they had to have known. Like I
said, gee, one of the battle historians. Gee, nobody read that book. Like, what? Nobody read the account from Napoleon. Gee, come on.
Right, and then you could see the same kind of thing.
Different now, Ransom. It's different. It's the 1940s, 1930s. It's different. It's not like Napoleon when they were way back in the late when they were back in the early 1800s and it was so cold and they had no technology. It's different now. How many times have you heard people say it's different now? It ain't different now. It's exactly repeating the past in a cycle again. History repeats. It rhymes too.
Right. Well, we have weather prediction now is one thing that only the U.S. really had going on at that time, and then Europe, they're getting ready for it, but we got another thing going on over here. They're talking about the French need to be prepared to lose their children against Russia. You got China, trying to pressure campaign so that everybody is okay with us moving into Taiwan. And then we got some really weird, transhuman, futuristic, dystopian stuff going on over here where we're supposedly evicting people, but it seems, in my opinion, that the surveillance tools might be being turned into the internally. And they're talking about, like stuff like this. The Border Patrol is monitoring U.S. drivers and detaining those with suspicious travel patterns, right? And this goes into
how would they know you had a pattern unless they were watching you?
Well, they are watching. That's the whole point we're talking about here.
I'll be watching you.
They put up flock cameras everywhere. All of these agencies are tapping into the other agencies for this super surveillance state. And it's about to go to the next level on where you're going to be having to be getting your DNA checked whenever you cross the border. This is going to be limiting the haves and the have-nots.
You want my DNA? You got to swipe my anus, dude. You kiss my ass on the way out, too.
Well, they might do it. They might ask.
I was just kidding. I was kidding. I was like, kiss my ass on the way out. That was part of the joke.
Right. They'll call over their counterparts at the TSA to take care of the rear end checking because they've already had 20 years of experience touching and feeling there. But now we're going to swab your DNA. But think about this as far as the food goes, right?
Thank you. Can I have a cup of coffee with that?
We're having all these problems south of our border with the food production, who's controlling it, where it's going to be going, who's going to be making the money, how much is going to be outputted, who's going to get to eat it. And then we're setting up, different trades with different countries, but we're also really locking down the border. And then you got this whole thing where there's a whole movement pushing that thinks that we stupidly, in my opinion, would need some kind of combat context over here in the Western Hemisphere, which I've been telling you guys is coming for a long time. Well, now it's like a mainline opinion that we should just go ahead and start using military intervention in Mexico. Even Trump was talking about the other day. Of course, we're not putting it off the table to do strikes inside Mexico. Then you got, this whole push by the neocon state that we need some kind of war. You can't have a presidency without at least one war with your fingerprint on it. You can go back as far as you want. Every single president has their conflict. If you go back to Bill Clinton, you remember he had the whole thing with Kosovo and Serbia and all of that stuff in there where we were moving Islamic troops into the breakaway countries, where if you fast forward today, it's even more shatter belted than it was. So the whole thing is like a powder keg ready to go up, but they're building that same kind of fracturing system over here in the Western Hemisphere. And, you were talking about all those rail lines I saw on one of your shows. You put up a map of all the new rail lines in South America that are going up and down the West Coast of South America. Well, on the East Coast, they're going in the communist direction and being friends with China and the whole BRICS idea, which is also that same place you saw the COP30 take place, and which, by the way, that had a big old fire.
I got you a map of Kazakhstan right here.
Right.
Now, not a lot of people really will look at this, but how does that blend into what you're looking at? Think about this as Venezuela. Like, think about these two nations as being the pivot points for the world moving forward. Like, this Kazakhstan is going to be one of the most important nations on the planet. And so is Venezuela.
Yeah, it's the gateway between the East and the West.
Yeah. Right? And this is the gateway between China, Europe, China, Iran, China, Russia. Like, this is the pivot point for all the BRICS nations to trade those commodities amongst themselves. And then once they get them into the nations, then they can sell onward to other nations, right? Like, this big giant area between China and all the way around through like parts of Russia and Kazakhstan. Like, once this gigantic mineral producing area becomes one behemoth, from the lumber to anything you could possibly think of, every factory produces anything in the world in these areas. They're going to dominate the planet just out of sheer being able to pick something that needs to be manufactured and send it there directly by rail within their own trading blocks and that own, area of the planet that's connected completely by roads, rails, airports. And they just ship things from one place to the next to have it manufactured. And then whoever's unfortunate enough to get the back end of that selling, things from China are cheap right now. After this thing really goes live, it's not going to be anymore. They can dictate any prices they want to at that point. They'll have the energy, all the resources, the gold, an enormous amount of wealth will have been transferred, and that will dictate, because we don't have any manufacturing, so the manufacturing will still reside in these same areas here. We'll have no control over the pricing of what they say. Prices rise, prices fall. They just won't.
I think one of the...
Don't delude yourself like, oh, we can make a better deal. No, we can't. In the future, they have weaponized manufacturing. You've already seen it to a point. But I read a couple of reports and papers on how they're actually going to weaponize this, why completely pulling back and withdrawing like they did. That was the greatest example, was the strategic minerals that got pulled away from the U.S. buyers over here. No more critical minerals coming out of China. And that was like a major thing that supported so many industries here in America. And they just cut it off. Just cut it off. That 1, 2, 3 of those few little items that couldn't get exported sent the world into a tizzy. Trillions wiped out from the stock markets just because they said. And then all the whatever gaslighting and clown posing that these politicians masquerading as leaders in the country, scrambling them over themselves to get like a 1 UN bill on it's ridiculous. Oh, now we want to bargain. Oh, we're going to bargain with China. What there's no more we want to bargain with China. Most of the manufacturing is done there. Like, as soon as they decide to weaponize, once the weaponization of minerals and actual finished end product at a 10 times price point that you're paying now to bankrupt you and continue to finance these nations. I mean, this is the ultimate end game. This is how the wealth will be and partially extracted from you listening out there. Everything you buy is going to get more expensive. I was looking how to get this stuff off my house. I caulked around our new siding that I put up in the front of the garage. I put too much on, trying to figure out how to get this off. Now, what if this thing only costs $4? What if it costs $50 in the future?
WD-40.
WD-40 and also denatured alcohol. Yeah, it runs all that stuff
Well,
off.
I used to do siding for a living there, and at the finishing end of it, you have to go caulk all the cracks and everything, make sure it's sealed up. And WD-40 is your friend. You can smear it; it wipes right off clean, dissolves that pretty good without taking the whole thing away. Just nice.
Then you can put up your stain and still see the wood grain. The very young 30-year-old pine trees that they cut down for our lumber now, not the 100-year-old ones like they used to. But I digress with the quality on the lumber packing and the density of the wood. Something to talk about on a Thursday.
One thing I was going to talk about is you put up this caucus.
Oh yeah, I did. I put it up. I took it off.
Heck is it, if I could even talk. Anyway, at the end of this map and at the end of all of the little trainways and stuff, you end up in Turkey. And Turkey has now become one of the biggest weapons manufacturers. They're a big deal now. A lot of people don't realize that. So they've been taking intellectual property from both sides of the fence because although they're a NATO country, they're also really good friends with Russia. So they've been doing kind of both sides of the fence there. But Europe has now decided that they're investing into Turkey to take care of their Russia problem, which, obviously on its face doesn't make sense when they're a major partner with Russia as well. But anyway, they are becoming quickly one of the leading manufacturers of drones and military parts. And that's Turkey. And that's right at the end of where all of these rail lines and new, trade routes end up. They end up right here and in all of these countries. And these are the countries that you will see first get inflamed with some kind of political turmoil, like Georgia, Azerbaijan, Armenia, Bulgaria, Greece. All of that area is very unstable right now. And if you go a little further north on that map, you see some of the other breakaway countries right there. There's where the major stuff's going on over there with Ukraine. And then when you realize that this is the only port in which Russia has right there, you'll understand why it's so important on the other sea, on the other end, to make sure that their boats get to cross this little waterway right here. But if they're going to become better friends with Turkey, then it seems like they are, because Turkey is a NATO country. However, they're also the guy Aragon's always talking about the new Islamic State and the new basically a new Ottoman Empire. It kind of boils down to which side of the aisle, so to speak, that the countries are going to fall in line with. Are they going to go the Russia-China route? And as you can see, we're way far away from trading directly with any of these countries. However, Russia and China has a direct route in. So if, when things get bad and things get in warlike conditions and rations and, limited supplies of food and material, guess who's their best friend? Well, in fact, their only friend is the people that can ship things to them, which was not us. It's not us by a long shot. The closest we can get is in there in the Mediterranean. And that's
Walmart, baby. Walmart is going to be your new government.
Well, they are the fourth largest distribution naval network in the world. So they're right up there with the major militaries as far as being able to have a fleet of boats and shipping. And that
was your answer then. How is that going to go forward here?
Yeah, but they can't get in there. That's what I'm saying. You have to, as far as Western powers, you would have to get in through the Mediterranean. And if they have this all locked up with railways, they have no reason, absolutely no reason. None of Eastern Europe has to trade with us. And in fact, Poland and some of those other countries right now, even Germany, completely depend on Russian oil and gases to heat their homes through the winter. So we're talking about, all that purple and blue going down in this area where those rail lines end over there. They're going to have some real problems as far as us trying to keep them allied with our side of the world. It just doesn't seem plausible. They need the resources that are coming from the East, and it's closer and easily to deliver from the East, from Russia and China, especially if we don't, unless we start going in and blowing up those rail lines or causing destabilization in each one of those countries, which I might add, if you go back to 2014 in Ukraine, is not that unplausible.
And again, along with an oil pipeline or a rail line, you would also try to take down transatlantic cables, or now what we call, intercontinental cables, fiber optic cable routes. Same thing. Okay, so what's this at Ransom, like the second or third time that we've seen widespread outages of the internet across the entire planet? There's been like 3 in the last. I remember there was one maybe 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Then there was another one last year. I mean, threw everybody off. There was like they couldn't get in the accounts, it was encrypted, that sort of thing. So that's at least 3 in 1 year of like we've never had such a level of downage before, outages. But not really, like in the last, since the internet started, we haven't had but a few of these ever in the history of the internet. But to have 3 within 1 year, now it seems like, it's starting to be more of a practice thing. So I would just say, hey, just saying, storing things on your local device versus relying on the cloud might be a great thing for pertinent information that you are, well, wanting to keep, I guess.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to rely on these, and again, what is it? It's an unusual spike in traffic. Okay, they didn't already plan for these DDoS attacks, like what, denial of service attacks, like they'd never planned for this across the planet. Suddenly, where's all this traffic coming from? Like an unusual spike in traffic. Okay, I get it. So you're trying to request something and sending in, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of requests per minute or per second. That's what these companies are supposed to protect against. And they got whacked with the same thing. Like, how is that even possible? You're at this super level of AI government throwing to try to take this system down, if it indeed was truly unusual spike in traffic. It just can't make sense.
Right.
It's like somebody hacking into like the CIA's whatever computer unit and then taking them down within. Like, oh, and there was too much traffic. Like, what? These guys prepare for this kind of hacking thing. It just doesn't make sense for me. And if you notice everywhere else, it doesn't make sense why so many things are out of stock. If I would throw a personal story to you here, I'm going to stop sharing this.
To stop you for 1 minute, and just exactly what you were saying. This is where we live in the future. This is 220 terabytes right here for about $150. 220 terabytes is more than you're ever going to use. I mean, you could store years of television on there, millions of books. You don't need the external internet if you already have it, basically. So kind of what you were talking about is storing your own things. People got in the habit of doing that when it was just movies and stuff like that. But forget that. Store know-how books, technical manuals, maps, weather history, and things like that. So if you ever got cut off, you have your whole library right here. This is the future. Like if it'll show up right there, it's got a little dust on it. But I got that recently because even the new computers, they might have 20 or more terabytes on it, which is a lot if you've bought computers anytime recently. But now you can get hundreds of terabytes, which is kind of more than any one person will use. You could basically store the Library of Congress, in a few terabytes. Shrunk down in zip files.
I went to a used book. Actually, it's like secondhand shop where they had paint. So we're looking for some stains. So a lot of times this Habitat for Humanity has things from contractors that they donate to the store, right? So you can get super cheap stain for like $10 a gallon, or you can get some sort of latex paints for like $8 a gallon, right? It comes from contractors that overbought for their project and they still have, but if they give it to them, they get a tax write-off for the highest of price on the invoices to their customers. So, they'll like drop off 8 cans of paint. That's what they had left. They get the write down. They'll drop off a case of paint and they get the write down on the taxes. Anyway, but they had a book thing in there. Every one of these books is $1, right? So electrical and motor controls. And like, for me, I'm not really a controller kind of guy, but they're showing you how to, put things together in a decent fashion here, so if you start to look at that, like how even the atomical structure of how these things are moving, like this in a grid down too. If you had this and you're able to find any kind of piece or part that wasn't working, that was electronic, here you go. But this is a bit older book here. So just just to see. I didn't even check the date on this thing when I bought it. And I was like, dude, this thing's only $1. I can't believe all the color pictures in here, all this information and everything. 1997. So when I look back here, I see companies like Honeywell and Klein Tools. They're still around. So I'm trying to think about ABB. They're still here too. So I look at some of these. Do I see any larger ones that I would see right away and go, oh, I remember them? There's not too many. Oh, General Electric's there. Giddings, but there's very few of these. So far, I'm looking at this list is pretty lengthy here, and I want to show you this here for a second. If you can read that. Like out of that entire list of those companies that were in the manufacturing, development, processing, manufacturing, distribution, and sales of all these electronic parts from the 1990s,
Gone.
there's probably only 5 or 6 of these companies left. Put that in perspective. The ones that built up the industry, that started this entire thing that is the internet, out of all that list, there's probably only 5 or 6. I would love to circle them. It's my book. I can do what I want. I'm gonna circle them while ransom talks, because I ain't returning this to the library. I bought it for $1, and it's the best book I ever bought.
Right. Those are cool. Actually, I stockpile books like that, more than complex electronics and radio. One of the things
Good one.
people forget is, most of this digital stuff, if something really happened, they're going to be fried. So you would have to go back to old school tubes. So I got this old Hammerland. I don't know how you say it. Anyway.
You go back tubular kind, huh?
Yeah. And I had to get a whole book to look how the stuff works. And you might be put into a situation where you would need somebody that not only knows basic circuits, but somebody that knew how to blow glass. And you could get this stuff going back with some kind of archaic technology, with like glass blowing and creating your own circuits like they used to have. Now, I used to be able to order those things,
but I need them.
That's all right. I do too. I just fake it, Actually, I got one of these space age things with a bunch of holes drilled in it that takes out the glare and lets me see. It's pretty cheap. It's like $1. Lets people like me see pretty good if I can't read something. But no, I've saved a lot of those books, because you should probably not only save the book, but take pictures of the book and store it as a digital file as well, just to have a redundancy of the information. That's what I've been doing, a lot of that, taking pictures of books. In case something happens to the book, then you still have another copy of that book. But those things are going to be priceless if there's no internet. I mean, and that's just factual. If you need to know something, so-and-so, well, he's got a book on that. Let me go over there and borrow the book from him.
So just think about that. The only companies left out of this entire genre of people here are the ones I circled that you might know, that are still well-known, that are around. Because I was looking at, and I got Banner Engineering, perhaps you're a local or regional area, never heard. So if you're looking at some of these companies here, out of all those companies, that none of at least in my opinion, the ones that are not circled have gone out of business or were bought by others and don't exist any longer. So think about that. That's an entire industry, and there were only that many winners that stuck through it. So think about our current AI debacle and how many companies might be there. Siemens, yeah, like how many?
They about to go out of business because of their green
Yeah, because
energies.
here's something interesting too, and I just want to throw this out. It's my book. I'm allowed to do what I want with it. Even just simple line diagrams. Like, people just don't know how to read this stuff here. Right. Like, this is incredible, most basic wiring, and that whatever it is, alternator, whatever at the end there on the end, like anything that you're making spin a fan, I don't care what it is. If you got to understand the basic circuitry, right? Like, how many people could pick up this book and actually walk up to a socket or into, taking off a light? Like, we just repairing the front of our garage, so we had to take the lights off out there. But it was only 3 wires, but they're pretty easy to see which ones they are. But originally, when I put those up, I didn't know what they were. But I learned.
Get your white, black, and green.
That's it. But they're faded from the sun, so you really don't know which is one is which until you touch it and you get shocked, and you know that one should be the red.
I'm kidding. Don't do that.
You got to tell it with the tongue, dude. Okay.
No, it's I even have old fan motors and stuff like that, and I had to teach myself that when I was young, and I figured it out the hard way a couple times. Zap.
Yeah,
You know,
now here's a good one too. Like if anybody's out there and looking for tachometers and stuff, like when we're starting to run generators and look to try to get to power production or try to get some belts together to maybe like, rig something together, this would be a handy diagram to have to know exactly where your power pole's coming in, how to maybe wire some, what are you going to do?
you
I mean,
know that
if you really had a grid down and you found some of this stuff out of a car somewhere, could you actually turn it into a power producing unit that would
yes.
recharge something? I don't care if it was connected to a bicycle and you had to sit there and people like rotated 24 hours, but as long as it was turning, there was current moving
Right.
versus storing it in batteries or making it move itself. There's a different range of that. It moves itself, it stores in the batteries. You don't do that work of riding a bicycle. I don't care, but it could come down to the bicycle thing too. As long as you know how to get that thing to spin enough to generate a current that can be used. Like I'm in my infancy of it, but I'm really enjoying like learning about it. It's fascinating. Like I love the sun and all these magnetic fields, but to see it in how the magnetic field is generated in the wire to allow that electron to move down that wire is incredible in itself.
I think one of the saddest realizations that kind of I've been thinking about is that a lot of these, skill sets and trades are about to disappear with the generation that knows them best. So
Yeah.
I'm saying like people that are 50 to 75 right now, they're still around. And if you're young, I mean, like, especially in your 20s, I would suggest that you hang out with these people and learn what they have to offer, because they're going to disappear real soon in the scheme of things. And the people that are replacing them are like Gen X, who might have spent time with grandpa, but they're not the I mean, not to be mean to my own generation, they're not the skilled expertise tradesmen of the generations a little older than us. Like, you could talk to Greg Allison about electricity for months and still only know a little bit of what he knows. He is a rocket scientist, but that's not what I'm saying. There's lots of people like electricians and other stuff, and they know these old tricks with this older technology and stuff because that's where they started learning it. And although a lot of that technology has disappeared and we're using new stuff, the people that are specialized in the new products have no idea of those old schools and old trades and tricks and knowledge. It's just going to disappear if the current generations and the younger generations do not learn it. And I mean ASAP. So you could picture a winter that was really bad where a lot of sickness went around. Couple that with a war and then a couple of, slight famines. And what do you have? You have a world in which the most valuable knowledge has just disappeared because of that age range. They were at the end of it, and then things got rough. And then what do you got? You got a bunch of Zs and millennials trying to figure out uh, archaic technology, basically, from their perspective. And it's just not going to happen overnight. There's going to be a whole relearning of things that's going to take some time. And one good thing about living in a third world country is they're still using some of that old tech and old tricks and old technology. So hopefully it won't be lost forever. It's just kind of, it'll take a while to recirculate while you're talking about circulating cold.
Well, this diagram is not really electrical. So again, when you look at some of these things that are mainstream, I can't believe the electrical nature of our existence isn't like mainstream science. Like you can't not understand that. Everything's electrical. We got iron in our blood, electrical. The lobes of our brain connecting so you can have a thought firing that, electrical. Everything's electric. Like we live in this plasma-based universe that has current and voltage and charge moving everywhere around every like micro cube of trillions of galaxies across. Like it all vibrates with this energy resonance in it as a blueprint of the third dimension, right? It's all this vibrating current with consciousness in it. Like it's not anywhere, it's everywhere. There's nowhere it's not. Everything's electric that moves off of this base force. And that's where the laws start to stack up and how it moves and not able to move. It's all electric. So when you start to come and go, well, it's like you guys driving SUVs and there's too many cows farting over on this way. And you see how it made it go too zigzagging. It started to spin up there. This thing is not really they're not talking about a vertical force coming down from the sun out of the ionosphere and electrically charging that space, that vortex that causes it to warm up and displace oppositely charged ions. Or it's just frustrating to look at this. It's almost like everybody, you're like those doctors who started to wash their hands before surgeries, right? So they're practicing on cadavers all day. They're going here, and here's their polar displacement. And one dude suddenly says, by the way, we should wash our hands after we're practicing with cadavers. I found after I wash my hands, none of my patients are getting sick.
Right.
And the other guy's like, no, you're full of shit. You don't know what you're talking about. So routine, and then it gets it down to a science. Is like a standard operating procedure. Before you go in the operating room, wash your hands. It took like 60 years, 60 to even get that to be, it's a thing now. Like, what the hell? Back when somebody proves that washing your hands stops the sickness when you're doing surgeries, but the establishment takes 50 to 60 years to catch up on something that simple.
Well, we're
now trying to go with, there's a big charge coming. It's a magnetic field line. There's these two currents that loop in each other. They're actually plasma, but they're electrified. It's a magnetic field, but it's not housed in by this insulation that we see on the high tension wires. It's an electric current from space punching in on the north. Oh, by the way, the moving new North Pole geophysically will catch up with the geomagnetics. Like, that's hundreds of years in the future if they can't get it. Now here, check this one out. This is it. What you're watching is a displacement pattern vertically on a displacement pattern. Like, this is not seen before. This is so unusual that top pink right there is the warm air of the displacement. So think about it in this fashion. The first displacement was the inner column of that. And that is massive enough to knock cold air down to Florida. Freezing temperatures down. It got to 40 degrees Fahrenheit in Miami. It got below freezing all through the entire, what they call Gulf of America, all froze on the beaches, all of it this last week and a half ago. That was that little inner column. That giant thing is going to roll over the top of that and displace again for the entire winter. So think about what I'm looking at is, think about it as a wire and a current flow in on a copper wire. For example, well, that means a smaller gauge copper wire is internally, and then it's being rewrapped by a larger gauge copper wire on the outside. So the larger gauge copper wire is now the actual normal current flow from the sun into the North Pole of our planet because of magnetic field weakening, which nobody ever wants to talk about anyway. So I don't know, man. Seeing some of this stuff, and if you're looking at like sheets of plasma when they come in on the northern lights, when you're looking at the different densities and the different isotopes and ionization up there with the oxygen or nitrogen or whatever to get you different colors. Now they're seeing a lot of oranges where things are mixing together, where the things are bonding and they're like jumping between two sets that should not be connected, but they just kind of hold that state and it turns orange. Hey, Bruce, come here. Dog wants to get out here. But when you're looking at that too, when you start to see those tendrils turning white at the bottom of heavily charged fronts like that, then that comes down to the ground and you get a ground connector, or ground level event is what they call it, GLEs. So what I'm looking at, instead of it being a ground level event off of a massively charged northern light or aurora borealis front edge ground touching, this is, space cold getting dragged down and forced down. Now, it's not going to be that cold when it reaches the ground, but you got to realize it's going to be significantly colder as that thing gets smashed. And if under the happenstance we were to get another X5, X10, X3, X whatever directly Earth faced, not only would that be falling on itself with the pressure gradient and the electrical charge, but it would get overcharged where it would get forced down electrically. So that entire front would just come smashing over what looks like Arctic temperatures somewhere around northern Alabama, even now, southern Alabama, southern Mississippi, southern Georgia, Arctic temperatures. If that were to fall directly down as a current of temperature, electrified from a new X flare, charging that and just forcing that down. They call it there's a term for that called forcing. But anyway, thank you for joining us tonight. buymeacoffee.com/civilization cycle. And I'm going to stop sharing if I can here. Bring us out. Thank you for, staying with us. These changes are real. This winter's going to be chilly. The food's probably going to get more expensive. Just go with that. So how would you prepare accordingly, I guess, is the last thing. But think about supporting us over on buymeacoffee.com/civilization cycle. QR codes right there. Ransom, anything to bring us out with tonight? Well wishing, send a generous and joyous message out to those for the week while planning their week. Like every atom in my body is vibrating with abundance. Back at everybody else out there. Right on. Give me something good, Ransom.
Well, the
every
robots
cell of my body is vibrating with abundance. Please enjoy.
The robots figured out what the elite did, so we're the resource there. We need to be manipulated and then eliminated. It's because of all of our abundance, because we're the resource.
Well, I'm gonna bring that snaky eyed little blue-eyed thing. Get out of the way. Boom, you're out of here. Anyway, thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you next week. Please share with your friends, family. Throw this in the social media. If you know a podcast platform that is taking on new podcasts, please let them know that we're here. And if you have a podcast directory that we are not listed in here at the Civilization Cycle Podcast, please put us in that podcast directory. We're trying to, network out to get into as many podcast directories as we can to get this show listed so we can share this information with others, because it's really, really important right now that we understand where this world's going to be moving to. I'll see you next